but I'm hoping to make it.
Okay, all right. Anyway, we're here, and yeah, we have a pretty nice day out there. I haven't been outside yet. And it's just kind of, for example, doing a couple of movements. You know, what I was kind of playing with a little bit this morning, you know. I feel like this, okay? Oh, what's going on another level? And the word that comes up is opening. Of course, it's mental. Look at the word up there. Opening. And of course, I open and then I go, but opening. It's like the opening continues past where I would say, okay, now I get it, it's opening. And the question then comes up is, what's opening? Make it an image like, for example, the sun comes out, you know, and it's been behind a bunch of clouds. You're able to find a nice quiet space after all a lot of noise and bother. Opening. So just for example, an easy gesture, you know, what's going on? So yeah, I'm just, you know, I was just playing around a little bit. Well, what's going on there? What's going on? What's going on right now? Anything on that? Do you ever play those games at all?
I rarely have time these days, but yeah, you know,
yeah,
sometimes. You know, usually an extension of some kind of Tai Chi exercise I learned,
okay, yeah.
you know, in the past. But right now, I am feeling how the opening goes past my fingertips and keeps going.
Yeah.
So that's nice.
Okay. Well, there is an opening, or something is open. And the opening continues past, okay, I am opening, or I'm aware of opening. And right about there, I begin to feel like I'm a part of a larger sense of things right there. So part of the opening is me going out, you know, my normal busy to there. Anything you might want to add, or?
Just that I noticed I'm breathing a little easier and deeper.
Yeah. Well, what happens is we get so caught up in the noise of I am busy, I'm okay, yeah. Anything else?
Nah, that's about it right now.
Yeah. Okay, now we'll be using arms. So all of a sudden. Just sitting. If there's a space opening. Then we'll wear some noise, trying to compete for attention. Shift back to the space. See what happens when the noise comes out? I get busy about something. It's just being very easy there. And yes, my breathing, part of the opening, is my own system starts to open, quiets down. Breathing starts to come more to the forefront. Feeling ground a bit more. It's almost like, I get too busy trying to sketch stuff and don't realize there's kind of a frame and an easel there. Posture seems to align here. Too busy and reacting to a bunch of stuff going back and forth. And they're close. That's what's tricky. The noisy place and then this other place are very close. Anything before we move on?
Not at this time.
Okay, yeah. Okay, now one of the things, for example, I get busy, I know some things. So the opening happens. The opening is just kind of a rest, so it comes back. But it doesn't necessarily have to come back and compact it. There's me. And there's what's opening. See, if I just sort of drift off, it doesn't do much. But if I hold too tight, it doesn't either. So be very easy. So there's me, and there's that opening. Now, right about here, we go in some movements. Just to the higher water change. Get too busy. Easy. Easy. Easy with emotion. Easy with emotion. See, things can get heavier, but they don't have to get denser, and I don't have to walk into that density. In some sense, they get heavier is deepening. Root system is deepening. That deeper root system can start to connect to other root systems on a deeper, 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 deeper level. For example, we're using that image, and tree doesn't move other than branches and everything, but there's a tree, it's like the center, and there's some aliveness centered around the tree. Birds' nests, there's activity there. Tree's still there with its deep roots. And some activity around the tree. So the tree kind of represents the center. And the tree can't twist and turn, but the root system, depth. That's just down there, that's wide. Trees, systems can talk, about trees, the trees. There's activity around that tree. That activity is There may be a certain type of activity around an oak tree and certain activity around the other tree. So I'm not sure whether the activity would shift much, but so you have to move around that depth, around that center. Anything you feel like adding or?
No, just that I noticed that when we started the staff work today, or I started the staff work today, I started at a kind of higher energy level than usual.
Okay.
So maybe all that breathing had something to do with that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, one of the things, for example, for opening, but they're also opening is also deepening. And for example, deeper roots, more nutrients. So all of a sudden the energy level shifts. Energy doesn't have to be up here. Boom, 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 boom. Deeper nutrients. For a tree to grow that big, if it's a big tree, then it's got to have deep roots to sustain it. We're getting a lot of rain this year, but we had a couple of years of drought. Okay. And unless you got the deep roots, you can't tap the deeper nutrients that are there. And so, part of what we're doing a little bit with this. Now, for example, this, I'm going thumb up, thumb down, thumb up, thumb down, down, thumb up, down. Okay. And of course, it's a movement here. But on that deeper level, it's kind of an interesting thing right here. We're looking at it like a pinwheel or a circle, but it's part of a sphere. Part of a sphere. And instead of my butt being glued to the thing and I'm just twisting the shoulders. Yeah. And so, if I'm back to here, back to that motion. In fact, I'm wearing this Captain America shirt today, those concentric circles. It goes the other way too. There's a little bit of me trying to get the movement, but after a while, the system is open. And of course, thumb up, thumb down, up, thumb down. And a little bit if I'm that tree. Deep roots. Going through the seasons. Not that the tree can go back in time. Oops. Or we're just kind of here, the tree, the activity, which goes through time. And those are kind of what we call some energy games. My mind is actually much more alert when I do that, as opposed to what else is going to go on. Anything you feel like adding to that? Or?
Yeah, I'm feeling higher energy, and I am also feeling alert and aware of my surroundings.
Yeah.
Although I just whacked into something with my Joe, I'm still aware of my surroundings.
Well, that does happen. You know, I cracked my knee. I'm not used to breathing in a chair, so
Yeah,
yeah.
the energy level took a jump, and I went wham. I'm like, oh, gotta rein that in.
Yeah. See, what's interesting right here, we get kind of a circle counter circle, but if we rotate the hips, see that's continuing that way. And that's continuing that way. Then that continues, and that continues back. So you kind of get different energy shapes. Or conversely, if the sphere the sphere can roll side to side, but it also kind of tip. When I was a kid, I used to love to take a baseball, grip it a certain way, and it generates a spin. Pitch that really revolutionized baseball was, you got your fastball, you got your curveball, but and then somebody came up with a slider. Okay. Let's slide out of your hand. With a spin, it's got more velocity than the curveball. Curveball, and then it has a break to it. Now, there's a difference between a pitch with movement and a pitch with a break. Right about here. Just moving. My hips are, you have the support of the chair, so I'm really getting the ball and socket joints, but the right hip moves, the left complements it. Right moves, left complements it. Instead of twisting, see right about here, the hips, ball and socket joints. So it's almost like right here, I change from a baseball to a basketball, and I'm about to release that way. So anyway, anything you feel like adding or?
Well, yeah, I like that you're talking about the sphere, because I'm realizing that whenever I move the Joe, it defines an arc in a sphere as part of the surface of the sphere. And so
Okay.
instead of thinking of like, fire water changes, I'm spinning it, my Joe is doing a circle. I'm like, no, it's always part of a sphere, and I can change the arc from each swing so that it defines more of the sphere. And that's interesting.
Well, just sitting in a chair a lot of times allows you to feel the changes in the hips, ball and socket joints. See, what happens when we stand up, the ankles tense, and we start to twist the body as opposed to moving. Motion go this way or reverse without set one. It's like you hit a tether ball, it goes, if you hit it with enough force, it goes that way too. It doesn't stop, although it may appear to, right? Yeah. And right about there, I'm kind of noticing, for example, like the movement of a staff, independent of the movement of staff, there are like energy breezes that are there. Like when a leaf, see the leaf moving, you don't really see the wind. You may feel the wind, but you don't really see the wind moving. Oftentimes you see branches or leaves. So a lot of energy is more, it's even past what I would call well, I know about it. Yeah, I'm beginning to feel a bit more flow. So those are just some couple of energy gains. Almost any movement, common one. It's this motion. And set up or weight into that. Oh. What we're really doing, for example, I'm going to go that way, then we're going this way, and then there's this motion. Going this way, then there's this motion. I'm going this way, and then there's this motion. Okay. Likewise, going this way, then there's this motion. You may recognize, for example, an object. When I set to go that, I create a wall, but so what I'm doing right now is freeing the physical system up, getting out of too much conscious mind. And you figure it out, yeah, I know it. And just to this motion in reverse. This motion in reverse. That motion and this motion. I'm kind of investigating one thing in energy space. Something gathers, goes out, expands, comes back, regathers. So you have this now, instead of being like a closed circle, all of a sudden it's this vertical dimension and expanding. Likewise, it goes over. I was going down. I was deepening. So this was just, a lot of times, just your physical movements. Like the energy space is really the template for all the Aikido movements, but other movements as well. Any comments or anything you noticed?
Not really, not at this time. No additional comments.
I remember I used to watch Toji Sensei. All of a sudden he'd be like this. It was like I'm practicing an Aikido most of the time. But the image that comes out, I'm going out, is the light. It hits a mirror, reflects back. Doesn't knock the mirror over. And what do I see in the mirror? I see something reflected. thought, okay, I understand it, but it's still going on. So my wrist gets grabbed. I try to move my wrist. Now, somebody grabs the wrist, there's a certain amount of, they can't, they have to. So, okay, at that point, the thing would be, it's almost like you're looking at yourself in a mirror. But you pull the reflection of yourself out of the mirror. You can't do it that way. Oh, you have to invite. You're in that mirror world, but you come into mind. It's basically the same. All right? So those are kind of games you can play. Light being reflected. All of a sudden, when reflection likes it so much, it decides to step out. And conversely, I get to turn and pivot, see my own world from a different perspective, from the mirror image side. Yeah, those are games you can play. Energy games you can play. That's actually a pretty cool one. Do this, your reflection stays there. You gotta be warm here. Invite that. Okay? Any questions or?
No, I like that. That's a really good image.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, what people sometimes don't get is that, there's physical movements. You watch Toshima Sensei, he'd be going like this sometimes. He wouldn't talk about it, but you go, what's he picking up on? Well, you got a mirror. We're trying to force the reflection out. No. Now, the reflection and I are going to trade places. Right? So, energy, cycling, recycling. This principle of a circle. Okay? Anything come out of that for you?
No, I'll there's the image of inviting and the image of the sphere, and I think you can invite your partner to be part of the sphere.
Yeah.
So that's what I got.
Yeah, we all pick it up differently or converse. Oh yeah, that's kind of cool. Yeah. Instead of a mirror, partner sphere, my sphere. Try to pull. Should come in. Toshima Sensei used to use the image. Irashaimase. Welcome. Welcome. And in the process, I get a perspective on your sphere, get a sense of my sphere, so we experientially kind of both grow, right? So kind of within that, call it the energy games. Let's see. One of the things that came up for me is again one of my favorite characters. Actually, was a real person. Was a man named Sasaki Kojiro, and he's the guy who became famous because he and Musashi fought. Musashi actually won, but Kojiro basically came up with something where he would watch swallows in flight, and how the swallows could go this way, then all of a sudden they change direction. So they go this way, and all of a sudden they change direction. This way they change direction. This way they change direction. In fact, the name of this technique, like kotegaishi, wrist change, reversal, his tsubame is swallow. So the swallow change. Go that way to go that way. Go that way to go that way. Just as free as the swallow going that way, changing directions. Changing directions. Okay. Now, there's that practice, but even that practice, it's just going up, isn't it? Then it has to go down. So, yeah. Kayasu to reverse. Let's go this way. Right? We did the sword thing yesterday. We started with the triangle, went to the circle, and then the square. Okay? It's almost like right here, for example, the mirror reflection. Get a mirror, get a reflection. Something to draw reflection out of the mirror. I'll be trying to pull it out, or conversely, wish it out. There's something here. He, and the kojiki, izanagi, he who invites. Izanami, she who invites. Together, izanagi to izanami, izanami to izanagi. There's an attractive force. Fire, water, water, fire. But reversal. Izanagi, izanami, izanami, izanagi. So when we're moving that way, we're kind of in a different space. Yeah. Any observations on that?
No, I was practicing the, triangle, circle, square, and focusing on things that I couldn't focus on yesterday because uke was, right there, right? So
Yeah.
I'm slowing it down and focusing on where my body is and where my center of balance is and how it flows from one position to another, which is something you can focus on when you're doing solo sword work in a big way. So that's my observation at the moment.
Yeah, and one of the ways, for example, if right about here, you pull your reflection out, then when you set to come back this way, you create density and weight. Swallow turn. Swallow turn. Well, accomplish that a little or circle. So there's a kind of a space there, right? Which is easy to miss, because sometimes we just get too busy out there. And in the matter dimension, and what happens in the matter dimension is I happens. I. Matter, dense, heavy, I, and that dense, heavy. Yeah. And, you know, a key element sometimes is to use your imagination. I'm going to go like this, and I can't pull my reflection out of that mirror, but I can invite. You know, the physical feeling. So it's like, you know, that physical feeling becomes an energy. Field of inviting. Other movements in there, yin and yang. This doesn't have to clash with that. This can simply work in harmony with that. This can work in harmony. This can work in harmony. Okay. So when we change the paradigm a bit, things shift. Check. Okay. So, you know, those are just energy games that we can use to enhance. Okay. Partner to some degree is like a mirror. Too tight, too tense, everyone, but look at me, I'm too tight, too tense too. Okay. Too programmed. Too program. Okay. And again, we go back to our theme. And the image I kind of get here is there's a lot of space, but it's almost like you're a bird. And you're capable of flying anywhere. So we cannot say infinity, and that's a big word, but the bird represents that. The bird's a bird. Can a bird fly into outer space? No. But it's sure a lot clearer than I am in that way. Okay. In fact, you know, sometimes cross-reference stuff in your head. In one of the quotes in the Castaneda Don Juan works, a sorcery, shamanism is like a bird, infinite in its own way. Thought, for example, in The Lord of the Rings, it's not going very well at the end of the third book, but what happens? The eagles come. So if I kind of check, you know, it's a big word, the psyche, it's looser, it's freer. It's not holding on to a lot of stuff that I hold on to, let's just say matter dimension, world of the eye. The gateway to other dimensions is oftentimes, you know, proper use of imagination. Well, my mind is too tied up in unproductive cycles. I get trapped. And then in that heavy matter dimension, this kind of just gets busier, busier, and busier. Very easy there. So playing energy games. Now this is an opening motion, but it's also an offering motion. In the circle, for example, I'm offering this to myself. It's going out, it's coming back. You can gather, doesn't just have to open that.
Say I'm switching devices.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm switching to my iPhone.
Oh, okay, all right. So you got to take off pretty quick, huh? Yeah, it's a funny word, infinity, right? And what is infinity? It's infinite. My mind, which measures in I terms in the dense world, what goes out comes back. What comes back goes out. Just like that bird. A lot of infinity is not a lot of something. It's just infinite in that the potential is infinite. Okay, did you have to see if you had to go or not? Okay. See, was that somebody else clicking in? Whoops, wrong setting. Nope, you're still here. Did you manage to switch to the?
I'm back.
Yeah, okay, good. Okay, yeah. What I was kind of saying a little bit is, you see, sometimes a word like infinity, for example, it's a big word. But we're going into kind of the swallow cut. A bird may symbolize infinity. If I start thinking about a bird and how that works, but the swallow can go that way and go that way. It can rest, so it can take off. And infinity, to some degree, is it's freedom, but it's also the ability, the capacity to appreciate the freedom that's there. And so, what we're talking about a little bit is imagination, as people oftentimes don't use it. I'm going to stand up, an elevator, or go down. In Star Trek terms, I can't do this, but if I got to go somewhere, it would be nice to kind of beam there. Genetic code, everything here converted to energy, broadcast, reconstituted. That'd be kind of cool. But wow, it's 23rd century. Okay. 23rd century now. So if I kind of look at this, we've been playing the energy or the imagination game. My body's looser, freer. Doesn't mean that I don't have concerns and things that are kind of tying me up, but for this moment, I'm looser, freer. a system vibes differently. And from here, I'm probably much more capable of handling what normally ties me up in knots. In fact, most of the time, I don't realize I'm an I in this matter dimension, very dense, keep bumping into things and tripping over our mental constructs. I don't realize that this is kind of the trap. So sometimes you sit, what's coming up? The word is stillness. It's a little bit like the opening. Okay, I got it, it's still. Let the stillness build. They sometimes have a concept of stillness and they take it up here and it runs around as words and easy. Another word that comes if there is silence. And go back up here, I think, wait, I can't be silent. This is too, it's too busy here. Easy. Stillness happens. Segues into motion and back to itself. Take any gesture, something like that. I remember first time I ever met Terry Dobson. He was invited to be a guest at the Dominican summer retreat. It was held at Dominican College. You grab his wrist, you go like this, and you go face down. Boom, boom, boom. Now, of course, we do this move in a very big way. Right? Get small again. What if there was a certain amount of infinity in that change? How can that? But it's just something. I can't get as big as the universe. What if the word universe is a bit like infinity, the universe? And there was a dramatic effect. You grab Carrie, and all of a sudden, boom, you're accelerating. Just a little gesture. Boom. Some change from very light, curial to heavy, dense, but boom. It's like the bird in flight, another yin-yang paradox. Things can be very fine. And it's almost like there's spirit and there's matter, but there's spirit and matter. And right here, since we're here, there's matter and spirit, or matter and spirit. But there's spirit and matter, which we can also touch. So, and then we start to kind of get some of the changes we can see. Those are just, games you can play, right? Energy, more energy games. Anything you might want to add? Or?
No, I mean, that's something to think about when I'm in the middle of moving, right?
Yeah.
So it's something to try and feel. I never trained with Terry Dobbs, but I've been to that summer camp at the Dominican College, and it's
Yeah.
a really serene environment that is conducive to this sort of work.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was kind of too bad they lost that, and they were at the Dominican. I mean, where is it? Menlo Park, Menlo College.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was okay, but it wasn't quite the same.
No, there weren't like deer in the streets as you're walking to the morning class and stuff.
Well, I mean, one thing about Menlo Park, you could go across the street and buy a hamburger. You couldn't do that at the Dominican. It was kind of somewhat removed.
Yeah, it's not quite civilization out there.
Well, you know, the other thing, you know, I just remember, you know, that in the Castaneda books, there's, you know, Castaneda, and he goes into the mystical desert, hangs out with Don Juan, and experiences all these different states of consciousness and everything. And Don Juan says, you know, this is my world. Your challenge, you be a warrior, meaning not necessarily a fighter, but, you know, he or she who takes responsibility for their own consciousness. He says this magic exists there too. In fact, if it didn't exist there, it wouldn't be real. And it's real. And you tend to say, well, I can understand it in the desert, but when I go back to civilization, so to speak, I get caught up in all that noise. And Don Juan would just say, no. There's doing and there's not doing. And if, you know, basically you understand the doing of being confused, you don't understand the not doing. In other words, sometimes, you know, one way of breaking a habit is replacing it with a more constructive one. That's all right about here. There's some words, stillness, silence. But the word that comes up there is also aliveness. Yeah, so anyway, let's check. We're just about there. So, well, anything to add before we end?
Not really anything in particular, just that it was a good class. You've given me some things to think about and work on. So
Yeah, you know, the thing about the Aikidos, you know, we get a chance to play with this emotion. There's some motion here, but you know, basically. But what's interesting is a lot of times we're too busy moving. To feel. And we're too busy trying to figure it out to imagine. I mean, all Einstein did on one level was to basically, he didn't discount the old physics, Newton, but he used it as a platform or a diving board to go into much more. And his ticket to that, imagination. Okay, anyway, we'll call it for today. We'll be in Mountain View for Sunday. Okay, so hope to see you there.
see you Sunday. Thank you, Sensei.
Okay, you take care. Let's see, we go this way. Stop the recording.